Freedom, my take on freedom. Well, I'm an incarcerated African American woman whose belief system is built on God and only the strong survives. Freedom to me is an overrated noun used aimlessly by those who take it for granted. Freedom is not a way of life. It is not an automatic right. When I think of freedom, I can't help but to think of oppression, blood, sweat, tears, chains, and whips, degradation, pain, death, and hate. And I hate to bring up my ancestral background, but I've come to know it as my truth.
For me, there is no other, because there is no default. Everyone is a variation of life. The human being, the human gender, the human sex.
It is being honest about my pain that makes me invisible.
If someone does not want me, it is not the end of the world. But if I do not want me, the world is nothing but endings.
You are your own standard of beauty. Mirror work.
I don't pay attention to the world ending. It has ended for me many times and began again in the morning. Oof.
You are sore from all of the white women in magazines, coaxing you out of your skin. Their fragrances all over your friends at school. You can smell them. The heat of whiteness on their necks, maybe, as your hands brush pain and relief into your face. Maybe now, you say, the world will leave me alone. I like that.
I think that that's something really, especially for women, I think it's something that like we try to hide our pain a lot. And I think that's kind of, it's like relieving to kind of read that, like, okay, you can be honest with your pain and we can do like lots of things. We can be more invincible than if we don't like, talk about our pain.
I don't know, I mean, that's a really intense feeling.
Rejection hurts in so many ways. I mean, because it could be rejection from a lover, it could be rejection from a job, or just a lot of just different things that we deal with in life. Mm-hmm. And if we don't want ourselves, you know, then who else is going to want us if we don't want and love ourselves first? You know, it's more of just being who we are and loving who we are. Not so much wanting or feeling the need for someone to want us or to validate us as women, as people. Just knowing that we are worthy as people and definitely as women as who we are. And to not let anyone steal or take that away from us.
I don't know, that's kind of perfect. I think it's important to be honest about your own pain. A lot of times people like hide it, and I think when you like are honest about it, you're able to accept many more things, and then like more people are able to like see you and understand you.
I guess this poem is a culmination of everything that has been done to the African American people since they landed on these beautiful shores of the United States. We've tried to assimilate, we tried to become what we're not. We are ashamed of our skin. The darker you are, the worse you are. It's a disease that started a long time ago, and it, like a worm, you know, boiling through wood, has burrowed itself into the black psyche to say that if I'm dark, I'm not beautiful. My hair isn't straight, I'm not beautiful. If I'm not tall and blonde and have blue eyes, I'm not beautiful. Brown is, brown is nothing. It's not. There's nothing extraordinary about brown. Brown is so plain, it's so common, and I want to be beautiful. I want to be special. So, as African Americans, especially women, we've turned and tried to become that we think is beautiful in the eyes of everybody, of all men. Mostly we want to be beautiful to African American men, and we see that they're not looking at us anymore. They're looking the other way. And so we're trying to become that because we want to be beautiful. We want to be accepted.
a lot of it comes with, well, in the context of gender, it's kind of the otherizing that that females are, or I'm already saying females and males, but it's like creating this kind of binary between between male and female, and then it doesn't really exist on a spectrum. It exists on a binary, and those differences historically have created so much division. But I think what this poem is saying is that everyone is unified, and everyone belongs to a collective race, a collective human race, and there's variation amongst the human race, but it's not by any means a hierarchy, or it shouldn't be a hierarchy.
So I think in American culture we tend to hide what we feel and just kind of bury that, and we focus on getting the job done, making sure our work is perfect, and we don't focus on ourselves. We don't really focus on self-care or our emotions, and I think that's something that affects both men and women and people of color as well, depending on what minority group you identify with, or the culture of your family. A lot of times, especially in the Latinx community, women are not supposed to, you're not supposed to say how you feel. You're supposed to just kind of put up with it and keep going forward. That's what we do. And I guess in American culture there are a lot of different identities, a lot of different subcultures, so Latinx culture in America. And so it's easy to forget that we can accept these pains, and so I think this kind of makes it, this is that reminder, not everything has to be about getting the job done, and not everything has to be about only pleasing society, I guess, the observers, the people who see us. That's not what's important. It's what's important, how we feel. So I think this reflects that perfectly.
I think in American culture, society tries to tell you who you should be and how you should perceive yourself, and that your perception of yourself is a lot of times wrong, or that's what I feel like they portray to people, and that I believe that way of thinking is wrong. So I don't know how to explain it. In this culture, I think that women should, or in the media, are portrayed that we should be thin, that we should be beautiful, that we should keep ourselves up and be sexy and not work men's jobs, and we should be a woman, and a woman is supposed to be at home taking care of children, and I think that's a wrong way to put out that message. I don't think that should be the message at all, but that's how it is in American society.
The American dream is very, very distinct. Because the way I learned it, it's a white house with a picket fence and nuclear family unit, and you're probably Christian. So if we're willing to let that idea go, I think the American dream would be what our Constitution has, and that's the pursuit of happiness, and it should be whatever you want it to be.
Because of the color of our skin, we might not get better jobs or better paying jobs. And a lot of it has to do with where we live. Because we don't live in the suburbs or live in a nice neighborhood, they attack us for that. They look down on us.
So many people are oppressed in American culture, and we're just starting to realize that, but people haven't really been talking about it. People will talk about it amongst their own social groups or their own identity groups, but it hasn't been something that's spoken about to the majority, to basically the white male. That's something we just haven't really spoken about. And now people are being honest about their pain and are being loud about it and they're being unapologetic about it, and that's causing an uproar, and that's causing people to be like, well, things were fine before. And it's like, no, people were just quiet before. Now people are being honest about the pain that they have, and that makes them feel invincible, and that scares certain people. That scares people who haven't had to deal with that uproar before.
Contributes to women feeling that they're not worthy enough or good enough or strong enough in so many different aspects. Like in the work that I do, I work in construction, so men don't give us the credit that we're due. They try and keep us from doing, a lot of men, I'm not going to say all, but a lot of men don't want us to work in that field. They see we're a distraction, that we can't put out as much work as they can, and so it makes you feel less than as a person.
I think for the people who are fighting to end oppression, I mean, you talk to anybody and they're so worn out, and I think you talk to them and they're like, this is how I do it. I literally just day at a time, because I mean, if you, as like a single person, you can't change society, but if you can just do that one thing every day and start it again the next day, I mean, I don't think there's any other way you can oppression, unfortunately. There's no magic wand to make it all go away. So I think that for someone who's fighting for that work, it's got to be your way to go. I don't know.
Racial groups have been oppressed historically, how different gender groups have been historically oppressed, and you know, like one person isn't strictly black, or they aren't strictly a woman, or aren't strictly a male. They have multiple components to their identity, and each of them kind of feed to a collective idea of who they are and what society tells them they are. And I think that in the previous poem it was talking a lot about like the oppression and how it's limited the African American woman, or the African woman, and I think that in this poem it's more like it's reaffirming that it's like, yes, these people have been otherized historically, but it's saying that that's kind of, there's no basis for that. We're all one collective human race, and there's variation amongst that, and it all contributes to like one whole identity.
There's this long journey, this thing that started years ago, way before slavery. There was this thing that started, and it started in Europeans. There was classes. They called you highborn or lowborn. And when the Europeans became oppressed because of their religion, and they decided they would come to another, and they found this country, there was still the system of highborn and lowborn. And then they brought across Africans. And there was no, the intent at first, I don't believe, was to say that African people were less than white people, because there were called bond slaves, where you could actually sell yourself into slavery. And I don't think the intent at first, that's what it was. When Africans were free and there were rich African people here, it was okay at first. But then the highborns said, you know what, we can't have this. We've got to do something. These people are becoming powerful. So they told poor people that those dark people are the reason that you're poor and you don't have anything. And so that caused the split between poor black people and poor white people. And it shows itself, even in magazines and the standards of beauty, it shows itself, and they've got us concentrating on black and white when that isn't even what it is. It's highborn and lowborn. That's where the problem is. And we're you know, house divided can't stand. So we're concentrating on black against white, or dark people against light people, when actually it's not. It's about those that have and those who have not. And the ones that have mastered splitting people and diversion, and they keep you diverted. It's like a magician, you know, when I'm trying to do a trick, I keep this pretty lady over here to keep your head. You're watching her, and I'm doing stuff undercover. And that's where it all comes in. So the beauty, the white is right and black get back, it's all accumulation of years and years of diversion.
To me, it affects freedom because of the color of my skin. There are certain things we not allowed to do or we not allowed to have. You know, we get pretty much brushed under the rug with a lot of things because of the color of my skin. You know, and I feel like they look at us like we're not human and we not our people because the color of my skin. And I feel like, you know, we get overlooked for a lot of things because of the color of my skin.
I think there's a lot of different ways to interpret freedom and liberty. I see this more as like a personal, like self-liberation, because a lot of times people who are oppressed, like myself, like I'm oppressed by being a woman, but I'm not oppressed by being Latinx because I don't look the part, I guess. So that like people who do look the part of being Latinx, like they're brown or they have like dark hair or they're short, I guess like the stereotypical generalized person, that is something they can't escape physically, but if they're honest with themselves and like within their family or within their groups and they understand like what this oppression is and like they understand that like it doesn't have to be that way. If you're honest about that with yourself, I think that's like a self-liberation type of thing. You can live so much more freely and you can just like have that drive to protest or have that drive to like say, no, it's not okay that I'm feeling this way and it's not okay that certain people make me feel this way. It might, like, obviously I don't think being honest about pain will liberate them of like social constructs just because like they're there and we can't do, like we're trying to do stuff about it, but I think like internally there's this much greater like sense of acceptance and happiness, and I think that's like the first step to like liberating yourself.
I would be in my own personal freedom. I wouldn't have to work so hard to get my ideas across to men, and when I do, they won't be shunned or poo-pooed so easily. I would be a foreman of a company if it was put to my life, you know. And it wouldn't necessarily be in construction, but it would be me being a boss somewhere.
It's time for us to just be able to come together as people and not be so hung up on color.
Freedom comes with the death of my flesh, not physically but spiritually. Freedom comes when I allow my God, the one I believe is the meaning of freedom, to take control of my life. And until I reach the eternal peace that I crave, the happiness of life itself, the appreciation of my own laughter, my very own joy, until I reach the love for self, freedom would merely be a figment of my imagination.